My name is Carol Ann Kilsby. I'm 49 years old. I am married to Alan. In the year 2000, on the Easter Monday, I had a subarachnoid brain hemorrhage, which consequently gave me a hemorrhagic stroke, which has left me with a chronic drop foot.
My name is Graham Cornwall. I'm 62, married with 2 sons, and was diagnosed with MS in August 2005. I just have a drop foot condition. What happens is that when I go to move my foot forward or my leg forward, my foot automatically drops down, which means I trip over my toes.
A drop foot occurs after damage to the central nervous system as a result of stroke, multiple sclerosis, and it's the inability to lift the foot up during the swing phase when we walk. As our heel comes off the ground, we need to be able to lift our toes up to stop them dragging, and a drop foot is the inability to be able to do this.
Well, I thought my life was over. I thought nothing that I took for granted all my life I'd ever be able to do again. And I started to get jealous of people that could actually get up and walk across a room. I envied them so much because I couldn't do that. I was in a wheelchair.
I was absolutely devastated having been told that I had MS. And I really thought my world had come to an end for a period of time. And I went through a time where I would fall over on a fairly regular basis.
The standard treatments for drop foot were to use mechanical devices, basically a splint which goes in the shoe. Not everyone who has a drop foot is given one of those, and we found that only about half the people who have a drop foot are ever issued with one, and half of those discard them because they find them uncomfortable or ineffective.
Well, one Friday evening I was, as usual, sitting down really doing nothing. My wife was getting the evening meal together, and in the early evening news at 6 o'clock there was a small excerpt from Salisbury Hospital about the FES system, saying it had been developed for stroke victims and they were about to try it on MS victims.
At Salisbury Hospital here we run the National Clinical FES Centre, where we can provide stimulation treatment for all types of neurological patients for whom FES is appropriate, such as stroke, MS, spinal cord injury, spastic paraparesis, cerebral palsy, for example.
Functional electrical stimulation, or FES as it is usually known, is the application of electrical impulses to cause a muscle contraction where that muscle contraction is missing as a result of damage to the nervous system.
ODFS stands for the Odd Stop Drop Foot Stimulator, which was developed here at Salisbury about 15 years ago by Paul Taylor and his team.
The Odd Stop Drop Foot Stimulator, or ODFS for short, is a single-channel muscle stimulator. 2 self-adhesive sticky electrodes are placed on the skin over the nerve as it passes on the side of the leg. A foot switch is placed in the shoe. This is a small pressure-sensitive pad which detects when the foot is lifted from the ground and returned to the ground.
As the heel comes off the ground, it automatically turns the stimulator on, lifts the foot up until the heel hits the ground again, then gently lowers the foot to the ground, making walking easier for people with stroke, MS or other similar conditions.
We drove up to Salisbury and they tried an FES box on my leg, and I walked around with the physios, and it was amazing the way that it corrected my foot defect. It made me feel like that foot was almost as good as the other foot, which blew me away totally.
Trying to think back to how Carol reacted when she first put it on, I think she was actually quite tearful, if I remember correctly. It just gave her such an improvement in her walking pattern that she was really, really surprised and really pleased that it worked.
When we first went to the Salisbury FES Centre, I was very apprehensive because it was an assessment and obviously thought there must be quite a lot of people going and didn't want to get our hopes up too much in case he wasn't accepted on the trials. But then, you know, when they tried the equipment on him, the transformation was unbelievable just straight away. And then when Catherine offered him a place on the course, it was a dream come true.
It was great.
Yeah, really great.
At the first appointment, we try the stimulator, and generally, within quite a short time, we can tell if the device is going to be useful or not. Sometimes this can be quite emotional when patients see their foot moving for the first time, possibly for years, and straight away they can be walking considerably better.
The criteria for receiving FES treatment is first of all that the patient must have what we call an upper motor neurone lesion, and that means that their brain or their spinal cord is affected by the neurological problem rather than the nerve that passes from the spinal cord down to the muscle. Then they need to be able to walk a short distance, either with the assistance of an aid or with the assistance of another person. Because obviously if they're not able to walk a reasonable amount, then the FES isn't going to be worth their while in using.
The referral process starts with the GP or their consultant writing to me here in Salisbury, and once I receive the letter, I will look at it to see if I think that person is going to be suitable. The vast majority of people are, but if there are any doubts, I will personally phone up the referring doctor and discuss the case with them. And by doing this, we find that well over 85% of people we see here are indeed suitable for electrical stimulation.
So to fit the ODFS is quite a simple process once the patient's been instructed how to do it. It involves placing 2 electrodes over the affected muscle, plugging in 2 wires, and then attaching the other end to the box. And then you need to plug in a second wire which is attached to a foot switch which is placed under the heel to trigger the box at the appropriate time. Once the 2 wires are plugged in, the box can then be placed either on the belt or in a pocket or in another suitable carrier or even on the leg, and then the patient's ready to go.
I wouldn't have gained the confidence to walk outdoors without the FES. That wouldn't have come, because my foot would still be twitching, so I'd still be liable to fall over at any minute. It has given me a good percentage of my life back, instead of an existence where I was terrified. I had a car, but I was terrified to go anywhere because I had to walk at the other end. Well, now that's not so much of a problem. I can go to my local gym and not worry whether anybody's with me. Most people are very surprised that I go to the gym and do as much as I do. The staff at my gym are amazed how well I've done since I've been going.
FES has completely changed my life. When I was first diagnosed, I was so self-conscious. With my job that I have, I'm fairly active. I'm around aircraft, with customers, walk around facilities. And I fell over on a regular basis. And nothing is more embarrassing when you're with the customers than to fall over in the middle of a hangar. Having had the FES, I now no longer fall over. I never worry about where I am, what I'm doing. But certainly my self-esteem, my quality of life is near enough back where it was before, and I will not allow the condition to affect my life.
A comment that always comes back, in fact from 80% of patients, is that the confidence they have while they're walking is improved. And this is because they feel safer, they can walk further, they can walk faster, they can be participate in the real world more.
One of the advantages of electrical stimulation over other treatments, particularly in people with stroke, is the fact that you're using your own muscles in order to lift your foot up, and therefore it can improve your walking even when you're not using the electrical stimulation.
We have 2 main forms of electrical stimulation. The devices used by Carol and Graham, and indeed many thousands of other patients in Salisbury, are examples of what we call surface FES. This is where the electrodes are placed on the surface of the skin. It is relatively inexpensive and is quick and easy to use. We also have an FES device called StimuStep, which uses implanted electrodes placed inside the leg over the nerve. The operation takes about 1 hour and is done in day surgery. The StimuStep is more convenient for patients to use and removes the need to attach electrodes each day.
The thing to remember about FES is that it's an adjunct to therapy, so it's not a replacement for physiotherapy or occupational therapy or any other type of rehabilitation. It's an addition to it. It can enhance someone's recovery, and it should always be used in conjunction with other types of therapies.
It's a very important factor that the researchers and engineers working with electrical stimulation also work with the FES clinic and therefore learn what are the real clinical issues for the patients we're trying to help. In this way we can produce well-targeted interventions which really make a difference. It's very much the case that the patient is king. We do what the patient needs us to do.
I tried an FES with the physios here and they agreed that it did aid my walking, and in fact it gave me a completely normal walk, which I was really happy with.
By using the FES, my quality of life's improved by I'm able to walk a lot faster, my hip doesn't ache as much.
Oh, it's improved, definitely. It's made me more mobile. There's no doubt about that.
And it doesn't take so much physical effort to get from A to B. It tends to smooth out a lot of the extraneous movements that I generate as I go from A to B.
I was put on the FES programme and it has transformed my life. It is just absolutely wonderful.
Carol's been far more independent. She can manage to do things around the house, go out shopping, go down the gym. It's just given her a new lease of life.
The FES to my husband and I and the family has just been positive. I would like to say to the staff at the Salisbury Centre, thank you very much for giving me my life.
It's fair to say that without FES, I could not do the job that I do. Having had the FES, I now no longer fall over. I never worry about where I am, what I'm doing. So it has totally and utterly transformed my life.